What is good, guys, and welcome back to the channel again. Thank you so much for all your comments on my previous video. That was one hell of a storm of comments that came in from all you guys, and I have to say that the support was absolutely incredible, seeing you all commenting, saying how a lot of you do use separate gear for making your beats as well as the SPs. So it was really interesting. It was really reassuring for me as well, because obviously I was a little bit nervous about putting that video out. But I just want to say thanks again. The community around this channel is absolutely awesome, and I'm glad to hear that you're all backing me so strongly. It really is amazing. So I wanted to follow on that video in today's video and talk about how I'm going to be using the SP404-MK2 in my workflow now. I wanted to sort of do a kind of more in-depth breakdown than my previous video, but I'm not going to go full on into every single detail in this one. This isn't going to be a beat making video. It's just going to be me showing you how I'm going to be using it. So I really hope that this is useful to people that are kind of new to the SP game, because it will show you that this is quite a versatile machine and it doesn't have to be used for the beat making and arrangement side of things. And also for you guys out there that have been subscribers for a long time or know my channel, hopefully it's a good insight into how I'm going to be making beats moving forward, and hopefully it gives you some inspiration too. So I'm really excited to get on this journey. Some of the beats that I've already been creating I'm super happy with, so that's the most important thing, like I mentioned in the previous video. Okay, so let's get into this one. We've got the SP404-MK2 on the table here, and basically the way I'm going to be using the SP is just imagining it as if this has no way of arranging a beat at all. Forget the pattern select, that's probably not going to be getting used very much at all over the next few months. Resampling, I've never really got into resampling with this device, although I probably would like to do some videos about that on this one because of the 32 polyphony. But basically, in terms of actually arranging the beat, I'm not going to be using those features too much anymore on this device. So that, I think, is the most crucial thing about the change in my workflow. All of that stuff now I'm shipping to Ableton. I'm going to be doing all the arrangement side of things in there. So the way I'll be using this machine is basically like an effects processing unit and a sampler. So what that means, basically, if you're new to those terms, is that I'm going to be feeding samples into this and recording them onto the pads, repitching, resampling, adding effects, doing all those kinds of cool little things that you can do with this box so easily and in a really like tactile way as well, which is really fun. And then after that process is finished and I'm happy with what I've got, I'll be sending all those sounds out to Ableton, either through the USB, so I could just record straight out into Ableton onto a track and then take those and put them into whatever I need to do, or I can export them all onto the SD card in the side of the unit here and then get the SD card up on my computer, find those files inside that SD card and move those to my computer. So there's little nuances in the workflow that you can do, and I'm sure I'll probably alternate between them all. It just depends how I feel at that moment in time. But I think on the whole, I'll probably be using the USB to just record out straight into Ableton. I think that's probably the cleanest way for me. So I'll have banks like this still, and each of these banks will have ideas on. And I think that's another really important thing which I wanted to mention about this workflow now, is that this to me is kind of a sketch pad, and a few of you have said that in the comments on my previous video. This is my ideas box, and this is going to be especially useful when I'm not here. I'm not in this room where my laptop is set up and everything. I can be out and about putting ideas together, but I'm not going to be thinking about the full finished article on this machine. I'm going to be thinking, that's a good idea, I'm going to go home, do what I want to do with the samples and put them into Ableton and finish the beat. So this now has sort of become a portable notepad as well for beat making. So that's another way where this box can be used to really good effect. I think you can get ideas down on this box so quickly, especially since the Mark II's come along. It's just an absolute beast for getting down ideas. It's very quick for chopping, so I'll definitely be doing that. So for example here, I've got a beat, I've sampled in something, I've imported some drums from my SD card, they're probably from one of my packs, I'm not sure which one, and I can just start having a play around with ideas and seeing what I can come up with. So let's have a look at these chops which I've made. Okay, I love this one because this is kind of crazy, and I think I'd find this difficult to put together on the SP just because of the rhythms and stuff going on, but I know I could make this work in Ableton. So I'm into that mindset now where I know these ideas can work, which is really cool. So check out these chops. And I have set this up like I'm going to be making a beat there in a mute group so I can start thinking of ideas. And then I've got some drums down here. So I've got the chops, I've got the drums, and I can start playing around with some ideas like this. Okay, so the SP there is giving me a really good idea of whether or not that's going to work as a beat. I think it sounds like that'll be kind of crazy, but I'm quite into it, to be honest. So the next process after that would be to move all those sounds into Ableton and do the full arrangement. But that's why this is so good. It's really quick to get to this stage of beat making with the Mark II, just because it's such a fast machine to use. And then I know I've got an idea which could work, and I can export those sounds to Ableton. Like I mentioned as well before, I can add all effects and whatever I want to do to that before that goes into Ableton, just so I get that SP flavor in there. Obviously that's important to me, being a big SP head, as you can probably tell from this channel. So if we go into another bank here, you can see that I've got another idea. So basically all these banks in this project, they're just ideas for beats. Here's another one. Okay, again there, straight away we're seeing that there's definitely some sort of idea developing. I can hear that those chops are going to sound quite good together, and I have the confidence now to say I'm going to take these to Ableton and arrange these into a full beat. So once I've gone ahead and done that and arranged all the beat in Ableton, etc, etc, the SP is going to come back into the game again, and this is another step in the beat making process where this thing really comes to life. Now, once I've finished all the arrangement in Ableton and I'm happy with the result, what I'd then do is export that as a WAV and stick it on the SD card of the SP again. And we'll kind of come in full circle back round to the SP. And what this is really good for is adding those extra little MFX on the top of your final beat to add some more grit or add some more SP goodness on there. So for example, in my effects here, as master effects on bus 3 and 4, I've got my equalizer set up and 303 vinyl sim, so that's just going to give it a bit more oomph, and it's also going to level out some of the EQ as well to make it sound a little bit softer. I like to take the edge off my beats from Ableton because they always do kind of sound a bit tinny and a bit high end, so the equalizer will help massively with that as well. So I think those two effects are going to be used a lot as sort of master effects on my beats. So let's go ahead and do some importing because I've got some beats here ready. So I'll go Shift and import from SD card. And I've basically just set up a little folder here, you can see, called Full Beats. And these are all the beats that are getting exported from Ableton back onto my machine. So we're going to go for buying here. The top one is called buying. I'm going to import that. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time to do that because it's obviously quite a long sample. It's over a minute long, so there is a bit of a waiting game for that, but it's done now and that's on the pad. Now what I can do is I can either go and make a video for my channel where I'll be performing that beat and record myself doing that. So for example, I could just jam the beat like this. Okay, so I could go off and do that, and that is one of the beats I've made recently, which I really like the sound of compared to the stuff I've been making on the SP devices. So obviously, it's a great performance tool that we've got here. We can play with the effects and jam like I have just been showing you guys there. What we can do is, while we're doing that, resample that to a new pad. So as I was doing that, I could resample it, and that could be the final beat that ends up getting uploaded to your music platforms like SoundCloud and Spotify, etc. So all I'd do is do that performance and resample it to a new pad, and then we'd have the final kind of beat with some jammed effects on the top from the SP. So that's the other way that this comes into play. It's a performance tool, but it's also a performance tool for your final beat so that you can jam a bit with the SP over the top as well. So I think that's it for this one really, guys. That is pretty much how I'm going to be using my SP devices from now on. And one thing that I really want to mention is, because I'm not going to be depending on making full beats on the SP itself anymore, this is really going to open up my channel again for my older gear. So I can do the same process like this with my older devices like the SP404, the 202. The 202 will be really fun actually. I'm really looking forward to trying to beat by processing the samples on the 202 and then arranging in Ableton. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then obviously I've got devices that aren't SPs, like my MS1, which I'm super hyped to try this process with. And I think there's also some grounds for trying the P033 with this sort of workflow as well. So I'm quite hyped to try that as well. The P033 is awesome for pitching samples and getting some really like nice character into your samples. So that's certainly something I'll be trying in the future as well. So this kind of opens up the game again completely for me. That is one of the major reasons why I'm going to be super happy about this change of scene. And yeah, hopefully you learned something from this process. It'd be interesting to hear if you guys work in a similar way. If there's anything that you could suggest for my workflow that would make my life easier, I'd love to hear it. Leave it in the comments below. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in again. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, huge thanks for all your support in the last video. I really, really do appreciate it. And I tried to read all your comments and at least acknowledge that I've read them. Tried to respond to as many as I could, but it really did start to get out of control after a while. So thank you so much for having me back on this channel. I really can't wait for the next few months, and I'll see you again in another upload very, very soon.